Welcome back, everybody, to Final Resonance TV and episode number 3 of Van Halen Stories. Today, my guest is Shouse, all the way from Nashville, Tennessee. And we've got a great story today that we actually were both involved in, which is the 2007 reunion show on September 27th, 2007 in Charlotte, North Carolina. And that'll be kind of the show we're centering around today. But Shouse has played with Gene Simmons and his solo band and Ace Frehley and his solo band, and also is now a member of Accept. So recently, when did you exactly became a member? What? How long ago?
Almost 2 years ago. It was fall of 2019.
Yeah, we probably both grew up with both, all their albums.
Yeah,
Wolf Hoffman's badass guitar.
Those two flying V's moving in sync. It's my first memory ingrained.
Right.
12, 13 years old.
I wonder if Wolf Hoffman has any Van Halen stories.
I don't think they ever
toured over there.
I know we've talked about it. They never crossed paths. I don't think. I know they never toured together.
Yeah,
they may have done some big festivals. They may have done some festivals in Europe.
I can't remember if Wolf ever said he was influenced by Eddie in any way, because I thought he was more kind of a, like classical influence, like he's doing the stuff he's doing.
Yeah. I don't know if he's a big Eddie guy. Sorry about it. I had to move a thing. He was more, Blackmore. I know me and him talk about Richie Blackmore all the time. I know about him and that kind of thing. So, I don't think they ever crossed paths with Van Halen. Yeah,
I wouldn't. Well, they didn't travel. Van Halen did a little European traveling in the early days.
Not much. Yeah, you're right.
Not so much later.
Yeah, I know Gene has some Van Halen stories.
All right. Well, Gene discovered him, right?
and he'll tell you every time you mention Van Halen. I discovered them.
Right. Well,
he told us the story about seeing them.
Yeah.
He's recounted that story several times to us, and it's just cool hearing him tell about it because he was there. He was
there when we took them to do their first demos, and we've all heard those demos, and without Gene, it may never happen for sure. He can certainly give a little claim to that, and
man,
you were part of the box set where you got to hear the solo from Eddie playing on, what was it? Which one? Christine 16.
They did Christine 16, Tunnel of Love, and Got Love for Sale. The Van Halen brothers are all on those 3 songs. And the Christine 16 solo is it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he said he made Ace play that.
That way, yeah.
What did Ace say about that? Did you ever talk?
I don't know if he liked that too much.
Did you ever talk to him about it?
Yeah, I don't think he dug that too much, but Gene knew what he wanted in that song, and I don't think that Gene coached Eddie to do it that way. I think it's just what Eddie played.
Right.
And so then Gene heard that and went, "That's what I want. I want it like that."
It's a beautiful melodic solo. Something you wouldn't expect from Eddie necessarily. I mean, I guess you would. I mean, he's played melodic solos before, but maybe at that time,
it's definitely different. That's just pretty interesting to listen to because it's so it is so demo quality.
Yeah.
And there's a few moments, and Eddie's guitar doesn't really have that thing, predates all the Van Halen recordings that we have, but besides the bootlegs and the live stuff, of course.
Right.
But there are a few moments, and I can't think of which song it was, one of the other two, where it's like, oh, there he is. He'll kind of lead, and he'll do a couple licks that you're like, yep, okay, that's him. Yeah,
I remember hearing some of those somewhere, and they're definitely their spots, but it's like his early stuff too. If you go way back before, 75, somewhere in there, you hear that early Eddie Van Halen. It was like, and I said this to Greg Renoff a while back when we did our interview, that it was like it all came together in 77, 78. What we know from Van Halen 1 was kind of like there were elements of it there in the early days, but it all happened with the tapping and everything within a year or two.
And it's funny talking to people and even talking to Eddie about that and his bandmates and people that were around him then. It was like, it wasn't a gradual thing. It was like all of a sudden this thing just appeared with this new sound. It was like, where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah.
It just kind of happened. But he was still, a late teenager. When all that happened, when you put it in perspective and look at it, it's like he was 21 when they cut that record, the first record.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
It's just amazing, and it's weird. It's like where'd the tapping thing come from? And in interviews, he's just like, I just started. We all know it was Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
That he saw doing that. That was what sparked it. But, you know, how far he took it, even talking about the debut album, he's like, I just started doing it. And it's just like, I can't imagine like a teenage kid, you know, in his room and that sound coming out. It's mind blowing how all that took shape.
Yeah, and it all came together within a few, you know, years, maybe less than a year. I don't know. It seemed like there's bootlegs from 76 and 77 where you don't really hear what you hear in 78, which is really crazy. I mean,
it was more of like the supercharged Clapton. It was more like that kind of thing, just, you know, with more, you know, more energy, more adrenaline in it. And then it just went into this thing from Mars. It's really, really amazing how that whole thing happened.
Yeah, Greg and I were talking about how, you know, if he would have hit the scene 2 years before, would he have had the same impact because his playing wasn't to that point in 78, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And music and rock and roll wasn't there either, because 78 was already post-punk. Punk was fast. As far as the lifespan of it. I mean, it's still going on, but, you know, 77 was the year of punk, and then disco had already happened. So rock and roll did need a shot in the arm. I don't know if it needed that shot in the arm in 75, 76. It's just 2 or 3 years prior, but everything was happening so much faster back then. Like, you know, now it takes a band 3 years to make an album. Back then, you know, bands were still putting out 2 records a year.
Sure.
You know, Kiss was still putting out 2 or 1 record a year and a tour and doing all those things. Bands really work. So yeah, I think everything happened at the right time. When you look back at it, it doesn't seem like a lull really for rock and roll, but the way the guys back then talk about it, rock and roll was kind of in a lull.
Yeah. Right.
And that's when they hit, and it just, what the hell is this? You know?
Well, yeah, you know, because I was just shy of the 78 era. You know, I saw Kiss in 79.
Okay.
So, and I was aware of Kiss before that, obviously, in 78, I think around the time that Live 2 came out.
Sure, 78.
And so that was my first exposure to Guitar Heroes, right? And Ace, obviously, was my first exposure to that. And so I saw them in 79, but that was some of my, you know, I was 11, so I was just now starting to see music, and Van Halen was happening at that point. So I didn't catch that until many years later with Van Halen, but when I did, that was when I decided to be a guitar player, you know. And so when you first ran across Van Halen, you told the story kind of in the previous interview we did, but he was an older brother, you said?
Yeah, my brother Kevin. This is in 88. Yeah. And he bought me my first CD player. It was one of those big component stereos where everything was a different brand. I had an Onkyo tape deck and, you know, Sony CD player. And I think Boston acoustic speakers, you know, everything was different. It was really nice. I had to have the nicest one. So he bought me some CDs, and Van Halen 1 was in that. It was like Van Halen 1 and 2. I think Revolver was in there, Toys in the Attic, Zeppelin 2, and Zenyatta Mondatta. They may have been 6. I'm not sure if I lost count, but he bought me those. Those were the first ones. Right. And I was in a very unique position because I didn't listen to any music this is 1986. Oh no, sorry, 88. 88. Sorry, 88. I was in 8th grade, and I didn't listen to any music of the time. So at this time in my life, I was listening to the Beatles, and that was about all I was listening to. I was a Beatles fanatic from those like 3 years. Okay. And so I didn't even really know fast guitar playing existed. So I heard Van Halen, I heard Eruption like a kid heard it in 78, because I didn't hear what it spawned. Yeah. I didn't hear, you know, all of the things happening around my time with the glam metal and that kind of thing. I didn't even know about it, really. I didn't care about it for sure. Okay. So hearing that, and that was, you know, it was complete. I'll never forget it. That's like, for guitar players, this is the "where were you when Kennedy was shot" question. You know, really every one of us know exactly what happened, almost what we were wearing, where we were, who was in the room, what it smelled like, everything. And it's that vivid for me, man. My brother, we were in my bedroom and he skipped track 1 to track 2 and just couldn't believe it.
Right.
Couldn't believe it.
So yeah, you basically didn't have any knowledge of anything like this until then.
Nothing. I like Aerosmith, and I was probably maybe listening to some Led Zeppelin at that time, but I didn't know about this. I didn't know what he created, and what he spawned, and what the band spawned. So yeah, this was like hearing it when the record came out. So a pretty unique position.
Right. So from that album, what did you do? Did you go out and buy all the other ones, or what was next? What was next?
Yeah, I think he might have got me Van Halen 2 in that same group. If not, that was the next one.
Okay.
And then just wearing them out, and then I got them all on CD. And then, of course, they were an active band.
Sure.
In '88, and I'm pretty sure I got "Oh, You Went 1-2" next, or at some point, and it was kind of like, well, this isn't really like Van Halen, but okay, it's Van Halen, so I'm going to listen to it anyway. Well, like it was different. I knew the different singers, everything. Saw them on Carnal Knowledge, and then I was, when I heard it, it wasn't like an increasing thing. I was instantly obsessed with this guy when I, from first listen, like everybody, like everybody was just completely like enthralled and obsessed, and had to find out what was going on. And this is the days before, YouTube and all we had, we had at least, I had some tablature books and guitar magazines, and I just, devoured every single of those interviews with a fork and a knife, man. I just ate them all up and learned every song I could, and, spent, weekends, not with girls, but in my bedroom playing Van Halen stuff.
Damn Eddie Van Halen, what the heck?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know what? Thinking about that, you're talking about what we didn't have to see. I think they had live without a net out by that point, right?
Yep, and that was once I learned about that. That was the video that you'd go to Blockbuster or Movie Gallery, and we'd rent it for 1 week, rent it, take it back, rent it for another week, go home, take it back, and I just kept that thing. And that still has to be one of the greatest guitar performances by anybody ever in the world, and thankfully it was captured on film. Yeah, it's absolutely it's mesmerizing. It's just another level of talent and like control over the instrument.
Oh yeah,
it's just unreal. No sound. I'm sure there's some flubs in there, but to me it doesn't sound like there's anything not a wrong note. It's like being able to take that thing and to do all that, and every noise that you want to come out of the guitar, you can make happen.
Yeah.
And anything that doesn't want, you can control that too. It's just absolutely just jaw dropping.
When I think of that, I think of when he's doing the tapping on the neck, and how, I told my wife one time, I said, you don't understand how little that spot is, and how little.
Oh, the harmonics.
Just to try to hit those harmonics up and down a string with such accuracy.
The closer your hands get together, the higher it goes, and the harder it gets to sound. It's just, right. And he wasn't super gainy either.
No, I know.
It wasn't
might have been loud.
Super loud, but he wasn't running a ton of gain, and just the control he had, and just his touch, and just that Live Without a Net. And my friend Kevin Rapillo was at that show.
Oh, really? Okay, wow.
He was at that one. Yeah, he lived close to New Haven, Connecticut, and went to that show. But yeah, I still put that on, and I'm just floored by the whole show.
Yeah, that was a great one. And then the follow up to that, which was that tour, right? It was the For Unlawful Knowledge tour that they released next, right? For the next live.
Oh, the Live Right Here, Right Now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they toured on that live album.
That's right.
I saw Carnal Knowledge tour here in Nashville, and also saw the live album tour here in Nashville as well.
Yeah, that was ironically one of the only tours I missed was 91, that tour. That was my first one. I was playing a gig that night.
Oh man, well, good reason.
I couldn't, and it was a killer gig.
Yeah, good reason.
But yeah, I missed it, and I'm sorry I did. But I did see 95, and I saw 88 at Monsters Rock. You know, when they did 812 in Memphis.
Yeah, I watched things.
Your show.
I watched footage from that. It looks awesome.
Yeah, your show from 91 was it Von Braun here in Huntsville? Or?
Starwood Amphitheater in Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah, me and Andy Matthews and Chris Woods. I think they were a couple years. I think they were seniors and I was a sophomore. I think I wrote up there with them. Cool. And the three of us saw it. It was Alice in Chains opened with Lane. And I remember it was early August outside Nashville. Lane Staley wore a 3-piece suit.
Wow.
We were all watching going, and Man in the Box was just breaking.
Right.
Was just taking off. And man, they were good.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy I got to see that lineup. You know, I got to see Lane Staley, I got to see Alice in Chains. I was a big Alice in Chains fan at the time. So I had the record that, and then, you know, Van Halen came out and, you know, and of course I'd never seen him and it was everything you'd want to see. And, you know, I was kind of like, oh man, they didn't play Atomic Punk. You know, they're not doing a lot of the Dave stuff that I wanted to hear, but you know, I knew all the catalog at that point. So yeah, it was great.
So then you went to, did you go to 95 to Balance?
I did see Balance, and that was the most boring show I've ever seen.
Really? Where was it? Starwood again, or? That
was in Starwood, or I don't know if they played Oak Mountain. No, it was at Starwood. It was Starwood.
Okay,
I think.
Yeah,
it was the Alex neck brace.
Oh yeah,
and I think it was pre-surgery, pre-hip surgery, Eddie. So he wasn't jumping, and the set list was really kind of tame, adult contemporary. It was kind of like the I Can't Stop Loving You, and it was like that stuff. And that was because after Eddie passed, I went and found all the set lists. I've seen him 10 times.
Yeah, right.
And I went and found all the set lists and checking them out. Like that was definitely the kind of in my opinion, the weakest, most tame set list.
Right. I kind of remember that show. You know, Damon opened for them in Birmingham that time.
Yeah, okay. I did not see him then because I would have loved to see Brother Kane. Yeah,
yeah, and I went to that show because Damon was there, and but that was
Skid Row. Was Skid Row on that one too?
They weren't on that show. No, it was just
okay.
But I remember about that show that for me, 95 was a weird time in music for me because I was kind of coming out of that hair band era into this whole new thing, and I was playing some gigs. I was doing some house gigs, and I was kind of burnt out. But you know, I went anyway. And it was still great, you know. Always great to see Eddie. But you're right. I think his hip was an issue, and of course we knew Alex was hurting too.
Yeah, Alex had a really killer Fu Manchu mustache, though.
Right.
He looked badass,
right?
In a neck brace, and and just and not, of course, everybody has health stuff, and those guys have been, Eddie's been jumping off of full stacks for how many decades up to that point. So that. Not because of that, but also the song choice.
Sure.
For me was very, very, very tame. But I'm not a real big fan of that record. A lot of it's a little bit too slower mid-tempo, and
it is.
I don't know.
Yeah, it is. So let's talk about your favorite song or songs. If you got to pick two out of the entire catalog, even Hagar, two songs out of there that just that you would want to immediately sit down and play, or that you just got to
the one that comes to mind first is I'm the One.
Yeah.
Because that was the one after Eruption that I just couldn't believe something was that much fun. And that one I just couldn't believe at the swing and how everything worked. I didn't really understand the jazz and swing element of it yet, but I was like, this feels so good. And he's not stopping ever. The whole thing, the rhythm guitar, his lead guitar, and it's just it's fantastic. A second one would probably be, man, I love Hear About It Later.
Yeah.
I love that intro. And I think the song itself, the chorus is so good. And it's just, I love that too. So maybe those two. We're going to stick with those two for now.
Okay. All right. So give me two solos.
Solos. Let's see. I love Somebody Get Me a Doctor. Not only because the solo, what he plays, but the backing behind it. It's completely unrelated from the rest of the song.
Okay.
Like completely. It's almost like it's almost like a jazz fusion section because the drums are insane in it too.
Right.
And just the chord structure shouldn't work, and it's fantastic. Another one I love. Oh man, it's probably. Oh man, what a question. Probably, I'm thinking DOA right now for some reason.
Yeah,
I love DOA because I love also how the first solo ends with the kind of melody that where. The second solo begins with that.
Right.
There's an interesting, cool thing that he calls back, and then it kind of, I don't know, it flows together nicely, and that's a great riff. I also love "Out of Love Again."
Yeah.
Because how it starts, ding kong, ding, that's just the greatest thing.
Yeah,
and the drums in that, Eddie and Alex in that, and the way Mike and Al play in that solo section is, you can't put it on paper. That is just the most amazing 3-person chemistry. At that point, I think they really are doing the Cream thing, like and the Who thing that Eddie and Al wanted to do with, like, a power trio. That's a great section of it because that's just 3 guys playing in a room live together, and it's just masterful.
Right, it's kick-ass, right? And there's no tapping. No tapping.
No tapping. And I love the tapping is so cool, but that definitely is low on the list of my favorite things about Eddie Van Halen's guitar playing. It really is. His feel, number one, his rhythm guitar playing's in there, and just his slipperiness and his phrasing. And when I was doing, learning all the, really trying to get into his head for the Mighty Dan Halen stuff that we were, the band I was in, I started to really figure out quickly that he really isn't like this super clean, like technical player. That in his mind, he's playing blues, and there's so much grease and grime dripping off of everything he did. It's pentatonic, but not pentatonic bass, but this weird thing. And then he had those patterns that he would play on every string, those big wide things. So you're playing a higher note here than down here, it kind of like sound like you were falling up the stairs.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, and I love those things he did. He was just so creative, and it didn't matter if a couple of the notes weren't in the chord or in the scale. If you played them quick enough and did it right, it would work. And he made everything work.
It's like the Alan Holdsworth kind of thing that he got going around 84. I guess, what's weird though is you think about Ice Cream Man, he was doing that same stretch.
But he was
doing that same stretch he did later in 84. So I don't know. The Holdsworth thing may be just a legato thing that people are.
Yeah, that was like, I think in 81, What year did he produce that record for? Was it 81 or 82 or something? He produced a record, I think, or was going to.
Oh, yeah, it was in there somewhere. Yeah, he was trying to for Holdsworth.
The real legato stuff, the kind of Fair Warning is a lot of that, I think, more. And there's not a lot of, there's some tapping on Fair Warning, but there's more like So This Is Love. Oh, so I should put So This Is Love from best solos in there too. That thing is just great. It's so awesome.
Yeah, it is.
I think that's the only one that he comped.
Yeah, what another great thing about Eddie's solos were their outros. I mean, we're thinking about So This Is Love at the end, how great that comp is at the end where he's just jamming, and then when he would do them live, he'd do them totally different.
Totally different.
Right.
And that's what the cool thing when you see him recently, I got to see him, I think 4 or 5 times from when Dave came back in the band after 2007.
Yeah.
And it was really cool watching the outro solos because he would do something totally different and do something that you hadn't seen before.
Right.
Like guys like me and you kind of know a lot of what his go-to things are. And it would be like, well, that's a new one. He's in his 60s and he's still pushing boundaries. That was always fun to see him.
Well, yeah, I mean, for guys like me and you, like I even, we're both done these tribute things for Van Halen, songs, and there's this thing where do you want to go at the end of that? Do you want to improvise at the end of So This Is Love? And you might want to, or you might want to bring in elements of what he did. But he did it. He was like a free improviser on certain things. He kept the earmarks, but then he would kind of mess around, which was kind of fun for me when I was growing up and seeing him do that. It was like a freedom that I learned. You know, the improv thing was like a freedom that you had to kind of make it your own a little bit without totally ditching. Although he would ditch it. He would totally ditch. Like, think about Unchained on the video. It's like different, totally different.
Totally different.
Totally different. But great.
Yeah, and that was so cool because then it's equally as cool. You know, it's just like, oh, that's what he wanted to put there. And then today he didn't want to play that.
Right.
You know, it just...
Well, you know, I saw that Al Estrada video. You ever see him play the live version of the Unchained solo on that one demo he did? Al Estrada, you know him?
Oh no, yeah. But I haven't seen what you're talking about.
It's on the EVH Gear site, and he's playing. I think he's playing the Van Halen Unchained guitar, and he's doing the exact solo from the live version. Yeah, and he nails it, you know. And it was like so cool to see somebody play that version of that you know I'd never seen anybody really play it. And
yeah, because that's a tricky solo. The lick that gets me is the that's hard. That's a tough little lick to do.
It's an amazing, you know. When I dove into the tribute band pool on this recently and having to deep dive these songs, you know, and really go into the licks, you go, damn, I didn't realize these were so damn hard. You know, it's not, well, something like Ice Cream Man, yeah, that's a super difficult lick, but some of the licks are just your feel thing, you know, like even
completely.
If you're playing like, say, Jump or Panama solo, the little nuances of those parts, even though you can get pretty close to them, but to kind of get his feel, to get his exact feel is so hard. It's really tough. The solos, the things, and even like some of the things in the songs, like the little "Somebody Get Me a Doctor" pre-solo thing, that you know, that part, even without the volume thing, to get that to sit right and to swing and to feel so it's not robotic and to get that just right, it's so tough. And I'm the one, get the fuck out of here. Right. I mean, that thing is brutal. Man, that is a beast to play with the right feel and to keep and to not let it take off and to sit back. Right. That's the thing is that it's a good example. It's like he's laying back so much, but it's laying back, but it's not lazy at all. It's like it is supercharged, hyper-driven ZZ Top. Yeah, you know, with like I think that the Billy Cobham Spectrum album was the first time I remember hearing the like that kind of thing. Yeah. So like that, and then so Alex took that and it was doing that hyper shuffle like that, the Hot for Teacher, but you know earlier, and man, I get that whole thing to set right together. That is such a beast to play. Yeah, man. I was thinking about that, about, you know, all those little parts in those songs. And like you were talking about Somebody Get Me a Doctor. One of the things that's seems really easy about it is that the lick, but there's that open with the bouncing off the C. Yeah. And I watch people do it online, and none of them are doing that bounce that much. You'll see people do it. You do it. Now I know how to do it, but that little lick, and Pete Thorne did it, and I finally figured it out. I was like, what? After all these years, it seems like this is a simple thing, man, but that one little lick is what makes that work. And I was just like, there's a couple things in his, like, there's the bends at the end of Running with the Devil. The little, it's a double bend. Oh, yeah. And I could, for the life of me, was trying to always do it like with the regular old straight up double bend, but there's double stops in it too. Those last three are all double stops. Double stops, right? Yeah. So so I was so confused by this thing, I could never figure it out. So I watched him do that Jimmy Kimmel thing, and they had it right on his hands, man, on that spot. Yeah. And for the life of me, his hand stayed in one spot the whole time, but I was like, how the hell is he doing that? I'm watching it. I can't figure it out. I finally figured it out, but I was like, what the... He's like a magician, man, with some of that stuff. You could see it right in front of your face and still not get it. And still like, I don't understand. Yeah. I don't get it, man. What are you doing there, right? Yeah. he was just a master at some stuff that we're all still trying to figure out, man. It's like, Damon told me in that last episode that he sat down with I'm the One after he passed and went like 10 days on that song.
Yeah.
Just try to finally nail it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sit there and work that song until you got it, That's and he said, I finally played it right for the first time in my entire life.
Yeah. I remember the first time when we were doing Van Halen and we finally worked up. Well, I finally got the courage to go like, okay, let's do I'm the One. Let's try it. Right. And we got it right in the basement, or we were at rehearsal, and it was like, okay, we can play this. Christopher, don't play it too fucking fast.
Right. It's already bad enough, you idiot. That happens like also with Hot for Teacher in the middle. When you do the climb up through the solo, you start with the whole first section of where you're tremolo picking, but then you do that walk up, and that is such a difficult. Now they kind of turn it around on the record. I had read, I don't know if Ted Templeman said that in his book, but sometimes like when they did something like that, it was a mistake and they just left it.
Yeah,
like they didn't straighten that turnaround out. They just left it alone. And I have watched so many people in other bands, or tributes in particular, kind of trying to figure out how I'm going to do this, how I'm going to interpret this and stay in the pocket. It's such, I think my bass player and drummer were talking about, it's like 10 measures of something in the middle of
it's
that.
Like, it's 10 hits. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Right, and then so 3 bands.
What I would always do to cheat was I would do those right, and then I would just do the high F sharp bend until I got the snare. And I'm like, okay, there's the one. Okay. And then I would continue on from there.
I see what you're saying, yeah. Because you like everybody that you watch do it, they try to find their way into that. Even watching Eddie do it years later, like it last 5 years ago when he was still playing. They did it like it was normal everyday stuff, and that's what makes them so great. You can watch him do it, look so easy. He made everything look easy, everything.
Oh yeah, completely. And when you got your brother, that there's definitely a family thing, and that really, they were so, they were such a cohesive unit, those two guys.
Right. So as far as like a complete album, let's do one from Sammy and one from Dave. Complete.
Okay. Sammy 5150. Without a doubt, the songwriting on that is next level. Such great writing, a way different sound, but still the Van Halen youthful energy, I think, was in there when they got a little bit. But they're getting older. Wasn't everybody blames it on Sammy? But those guys are getting older too.
Sure.
And like when he was a little more mature and all that. So, but
they're all in their 30s by then, right?
Yeah, all way in their 30s.
They're older guys.
I know.
They're older guys.
Jeez. But 5150. I love every song on that record. I love it, and the guitar playing is next level. Dave, it's between numbers 1 and 2. 1 is so amazing. But I do love Van Halen 2 as well. Maybe as much as number 1. Any of those really early records, the Dave stuff, I really can listen to for different reasons. And Fair Warning is a great record. They're great records all through and through. But man, I might have to go with number 2.
Cool. So you like the songs or just the overall package of it?
I like the overall package. I love the songs on that one. I love his playing. It's got some of my favorites on there. Doctors are my favorites. Bottoms Up, love that one. DOA is one of the greatest. Light Up the Sky. I mean, it's just great. So yeah, maybe number 2. I do love A Different Kind of Truth as well. I'm not forgetting that one.
Right, we need to talk about that.
In the least.
Talk about that. Let me. I'll tell you a story though about 2. This is a good story.
Yeah.
When I saw them, I forget which tour it was. It may have been 2012. I'm pretty sure it was in Nashville. Were you at that one?
Yes, I was.
It may or may not be, because you may not, if you don't remember, it probably wasn't 2012. But they were doing Out of Love again, and Eddie and Wolfie got lost. Do you remember that?
Oh, I forgot about that.
Do you remember that?
No. What happened?
All right, so there, I don't know. It may have been Atlanta. It may have been Atlanta before that. I can't remember. But anyway,
just because I don't remember it doesn't mean it didn't.
It was real obvious. It was a real mess. You know what? I have it on video somewhere.
Don't take that with too much weight, man. A lot's escaped. So
it was pretty obvious, and I was videotaping that song. I remember that, and I have it still somewhere. But they were in the middle of it, and they got lost, and Dave looks over at Eddie and Wolfie and goes, "Follow me to the chorus." And they finally got it straightened out. They went right back, caught it, and got turned back around.
Oh my God!
Somewhere I've got the video of him saying that, you know, and
that's great. I do see if you remember this too.
Right.
They were doing here. Now this is the first time I was going to hear them play "Hear About It Later."
Yeah,
they didn't do that on the first time I saw them. I think this is the. No, wait. This is the third time I've seen them with Dave back in the band, because I saw the first night of the Different Kind of Truth tour in Louisville.
Okay.
So this is the third. So they're about to do "Hear About It Later," and which is my favorite. And Eddie's just started the intro. And Dave, there's a beach ball being tossed around. And Dave starts talking over the intro. "Hey, anybody sees that beach ball to stop and be careful. Somebody got their glasses knocked off last night." I'm like, this is the fucking guy who's talking about getting his dick grabbed in the hotel room and all that stuff. And now he's talking about watching a beach ball because your glasses are going to get knocked off. Like, come on. I was so mad. He talked over the entire intro, and I was so pissed at him.
Yeah, he does that kind of stuff. We know how he behaves.
Oh my God,
he's something, man. And you know, that part that made Van Halen what it was. You know.
Oh man, I just couldn't believe the contrast and the guy that would walk out there and like, "Don't stick your tongue out at me, pal." Is that stuff? I love that stuff. And then it's like, "Oh, be careful, you get your glasses knocked off." You know, that's like, no,
that's crazy.
Come on.
Let's talk about the show that we came in to talk about today, which is the 2007 reunion tour. You know, for me, I drove to the show in Charlotte like you did. I went with my drummer, and we were walking in, and one of the first shirts I saw said, "Van Halen 2007, 2008 tour. We can all die now." That's what it said on the back of it. And I think I have a picture of that somewhere. But yeah, that was sort of like the feeling, right? Like,
yeah, it was. It was like the thing you never really thought would happen. And we'd all so desperately, because I'd never seen, them with Dave. And so, yeah, this was it. It's like, that the Kiss reunion in makeup. This was for me was just on par with that. I had waited so long to see and hear these songs played. It really was the feeling of like, oh my God. And then, everything was so explosive with those two guys. You didn't know. You were like, I hope the show happens. One of the guys didn't get pissed off and go home.
You know what I said before the show happened? I told my wife, I said, I've got to go to the first show because they might not make it to the second show.
That is exactly why I went to the first one completely. It's like, I'm doing it. I'm going to see it. If it crash and burns after this show, I'm going.
Right. So you went to for the same reason. And it's crazy, right? We all were scared to death. They wouldn't even make it through one show, much less
I had to see it, damn it. Luckily, it was a day's drive,
And you know what? We're looking at my notes. They did 76 shows on that. 76 dates in 2007 and 2008. Of course, they had some little stops along the way for Eddie's issues that he had throughout the tour. But
I had tickets for Atlanta, and that one got canceled.
Yeah, and I went to both of those. I went to the first one at Phillips Arena, and there's a really good story that goes with the Phillips Arena one as well. We'll go back to Charlotte. At Phillips, the entire PA went out during his solo.
Oh.
Yeah, he's playing Eruption, dude. He's doing the whole solo. The entire PA goes down.
Does he know it?
Not at first.
Oh, yeah.
And then he finally...
you can't tell sometimes. His stage volume is so loud.
Right.
And, so he might...
But he's kind of like... And, everybody's so afraid of what's going to happen now, right? Somebody's going to get killed.
Yeah.
And, the audience kind of like they cheered him on. They were like, they started going, Eddie, Eddie.
Sure.
And he just kind of chilled and like, it finally came back up and he went back. It was like, wow. It was pretty cool, though.
Oh, man.
It was a cool moment. But yeah, one thing about Charlotte, though, if you go back to Charlotte, man, was when it first started, that show, man, it was like the freaking Beatles that night. You know, it was like very few concerts I've ever been to where that, you know, that lead up to the opening of the show is that big, that anticipated. There's very few I've seen. I've seen only a couple that have been like that. One of the Bon Jovi shows I saw in Nashville was like that. It was insane.
Yeah.
But the lead up to that show was incredible.
Yeah, it was the first one. There were no set list spoilers. There were no pictures of the stage. You know, you really didn't know what you were going to get. And so it was all surprises. And that just was so, it was just absolutely electric in there. So glad I went to that one. I was funny. I actually got a call before, I don't know, weeks before that. Of course, you had your tickets months away. And I'd gotten an offer to do some Shooter Jennings gigs. And I turned them down because the show. Wow. And which, I don't know, it's something I might, you know, not would, you know, something that if I would have get. And back then, you know, in 2007, I wasn't doing jack shit. You know, I was looking for gigs.
Right.
But it was just like, nah, I can't miss this show.
Oh, I got tickets,
yeah.
It was crazy, man. Where did you end up sitting?
We were on Eddie's side, one of the lower bowl, going around. We were on Ed's. I don't think I took any photos or anything, actually. I do have a really. I'll send this to you when we're done. I'll get it all compiled. I got a great quality bootleg of this show. It really is a good quality.
And I'll insert it throughout here where we can.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Get it in there. Yeah, that. I remember the sound being pretty good. I was down on the floor. I was more on the left side. I was on the far left side of the floor, 20 rows back or so. I remember Valerie was there. Valerie Bertinelli was there.
Sure. Yeah.
Walked past us, and it was Wolfie's first show.
Wolfie's first show. He's 16 years old.
Right, man.
Can you believe that?
I even painted my car up for the, you know, with all the logo and shit.
Oh, nice.
And I put Wolfie Van Halen down the side of it on that.
Awesome.
I've got a picture of that too. I'll try to put that in. But yeah, man, it was his first show, and it was later in the tour. I think I did a VIP thing where I got to watch Soundcheck.
Oh, cool.
And he sang in Soundcheck, and I think he was doing I'll Wait. He was singing a lead.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, who's singing lead? And it was Wolfgang.
The kid singing lead. Wow, that's great.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed. And of course, they were doing background vocals together, you know, during the sound check. There was no date, of course. But yeah, and Eddie came out, and he came out to the board, and he was talking to the house guy, and he was real close to us at that. And but they were pretty cool about having people in there and.
Yeah, they did. I never went to one of those because they did that on Different Kind of Truth tour. I think I'm not sure if they did that in 2015 or not. But I never did one of the VIP. I never even got like close to meeting any of them. Never like even close.
Yeah, Wolfgang came to Birmingham to a little place down in the South Side. I can't remember for the life of me, but a little bitty tiny club with Tremonti. When Tremonti did his
that's right. Yeah.
When he did his first solo tour. And it just so happened at the end they were like, you know, if you buy some merch, you can meet everybody. And so we stayed around and got to meet Wolf and got to meet Mark, which I don't think I ever met Mark officially, you know, like got to speak to him. And Wolfie was so cool, man. He was super young still, you know, and he was just doing the bass thing, but I mean, he was amazing then. Yeah,
he really is. I mean, even like to handle that kind of pressure at 16, like me and you saw him in his first show, to handle that, not just the music, but just the pressure and the poor, you know, all the shit that poor kid took was none of his doing at all.
Sure.
Just,
We
and how
kind
he
of
still handles it with so much grace and humor, and just lets it slide off his back. And, at least it appears that way. It's just really, really amazing at the composure he's had since then.
Yeah, we all know that that Eddie, with Eddie's issues at the time, that his kid was the thing that was holding them together.
Yes, that we would not have got that reunion without Wolfgang, for sure, 100%.
We may not have had any of those shows.
No.
No.
So the album in the 2007 tour would not have happened without Wolfgang. And
he damn near made the kitchen sink thing happen.
Yeah. Yep.
That would have been something that would have happened, man. But unfortunately it didn't. But geez, that kid, he's just when I met him, he was so gracious. And he had such a balance about him that you just wouldn't expect from a rock star and a movie or TV star's kid.
And and he's so young too. And I think he's 30 now at this point. But I mean, back then, he was 16 then. The Tremonti, was he even 20 yet?
Yeah, he was.
Was he early 20s maybe?
That was 2010 or 2012. I think it was 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
Anyway,
early 20s. Yeah.
Been 10 years ago, so it was right in there. And he was still super young, but when we went up and talked to him for a little while, he was great, man. He was super nice to us. We told him we loved him and loved his dad, and he had it seemed like a real appreciation for his dad's legacy even then. Yeah.
I think he did. He was because he was kind of the one that talked him into getting Dave back in the band. Like, these songs are pretty good, Dad. We should call him and see if he wants to play with us.
Right, and he did, which is so funny that he called.
Yeah, it's kind of good. I think that kind of course, he's gonna, with his own music, gonna pursue his own sound, which is fantastic. It's wonderful. Yeah. But I think it's in good hands. Like, the legacy, and I think him and Matt Bruck are gonna be, the gear guy. The EVH gear is fantastic, and I would love to see some reissues come out with some other stuff and some hidden stuff. But, I think it's in good hands. He gives as much of a shit as anybody could about it.
Sure.
It's his blood.
And he said, in an interview that I saw, which somebody actually asked him about EVH gear, he said specifically that his dad had a lot of things in the pipeline before he passed that would come to fruition.
Yeah. Good.
So we'll see some products that Dad was still involved in, because these guys are thinking 5 years out,
Oh, sure. Yeah. Because it takes when we buy the product, there's years of work that went into that. So the phaser flanger, man, those were all worked on for, years before they ever hit the market. So,
right. Or even the striped guitars go back to 2004 when they first released the very first.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So that's way back, and you think about how long he's been with EVH gear, through that period. There's got to be, who knows how much stuff is still to come from his his head, because that's kind of what his son said, that Dad had lots of things in the pipeline and that we would see those. So that's going to be exciting to keep seeing things.
Yeah, very, very, very.
That's an amazing, and he's an amazing kid, and I think I am going to get to see him this year, by the way. I'm going over to Columbia, South Carolina.
Oh, good. Is it a GNR show or Mama Solo?
It is a solo show at the Senate, it's called.
Okay, cool.
I've never been there, but I used to live there when I was a kid. In fact, I saw Kiss in '79 in Columbia, South Carolina.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
At the Carolina Coliseum, which is not where they play basketball today, but it's still there.
Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha. Awesome.
So pretty cool. So that tour, that last reunion show, the first reunion show we saw, I remember the lasers, and Cradle.
It had the weird S-shaped stage.
Yeah.
And those two doors.
Yeah.
That came out. It was a weird, I don't think there was a screen. Was there an LED screen? I don't think there was.
Not that year, 2012. This is a big screen.
2012 was the massive one. And in 07, they didn't have it. And also in 07, Dave was badass in 07. He looked great. He had these awesome leather flares on, a Matador jacket open. He's always been in great shape, but he was just kind of strutting around and doing a couple kicks, but he just pretty much just loomed and worked around and sang well. He picked his moments. And then when he couldn't do something that he was, from the early days, that he couldn't do those high screams, he figured out ways to get around that stuff. And it was just fucking badass. And then in 2012,
it wasn't so badass.
we have the overalls thing and the hands. It was like, man, I was really missed because I went back and listened to that bootleg to a couple past few days and listening to it. He was really, really good in 07. Like, he was singing great. I remember just the visual of him just like, doing a lot of the shoulder strutting around stuff that did. He was still like very, very, very Dave, but just an older Dave,
Yeah, and I agree with you. In my mind, I have the Van Halen brothers and him and some management person negotiating this tour, right? And they're saying, Dave, now you gotta modernize, because I saw him with the Sammy and Dave tour, right?
Yes.
And this was a disaster, in my opinion, for Dave. Because
like the gold suit or the blue suit.
Yeah. I hurt so bad for Dave. I was so close, and I hurt so bad for him because he closed the show in Nashville when I was there.
Yeah.
And Hagar had just put on probably one of the top shows I'd ever seen.
I heard that it was a bloodbath.
It was insane. And I'm a fan of Hagar, but I'm also a huge fan of Dave. And this particular show just really hurt me for Dave.
Yeah. I've heard. I didn't see that tour, but I saw Dave solo around the same time.
Okay.
And the show I saw, you may have seen this because it was in Birmingham. It was Dave. I'm sure there was an opener there, but I don't know who it was. But Dave was really good. But I did hear the same thing that you are saying about the Nashville Sam and Dave show.
Yeah. It was
not very.
Well, he didn't really have a chance after what Sammy had just done. It was just Sammy's. I've seen Sammy a bunch of times, and this is Sammy's best show I'd ever seen. My wife says it's one of her top, if not probably her number one show.
Yeah.
And, she's more of a general listener. But the party and show he put on that night was unbelievable, man. It was great. Yeah. And, Dave, so I hurt for Dave. So when he came back, when I was saying about their management and getting Dave to sing the songs a little bit more correctly, and it just felt like Dave was on his best behavior in 07. He really wanted to make it.
Exactly, it was.
Like, I really can do this, you guys. I can really sing, and I can really be Dave.
Yeah, exactly. Best behavior is a really good way to put it, because it really was like that. He didn't talk a lot in the press. The problem, sure, that was like, you're not doing it. You're not opening your mouth. You're not doing a lot of interviews. And then they came out, and I remember this. I got the set list pulled up here, and it's like 25 songs. They played "I'm the One" second. So right off the bat, I got what I wanted. Like, I got what I came for. And then I remember after the guitar solo, when it drops out for the ba-ba-da, shooty-wah, they just stopped.
Right.
Because we're all losing our minds. I mean, everybody's just going crazy. And Alex is counting the hi-hat for a second, then he just quits. And I remember Dave just walking out, looking like he used to do, and he's like, it only took 20 years to get this fucking far. But then they counted off, and it was just like everybody just lost it at that moment. That wasn't rehearsed, because Al was ready to go, and it was so great.
Yeah, Roth had that thing about him where they had always played around with improv and moments like that. They knew how to. Because, they did this in clubs, I'm sure, for years, and they can just kind of feel each other out when somebody wants to do something like that, or, and they just do it, they just wing that shit, and they do it so well, it's amazing. Dave, Greg's book, Greg, that you and I know, Greg Renoff, that book illuminates Dave in such a way that we really can understand how he was such a big part of their success.
Absolutely. I mean, it was... He as off the wall and like really unique as a rock and roll frontman. I mean, he's equal parts Jim Dandy as he is, a Vegas show as he is Louis Prima. Really, I mean, he's really, really amazing and unique. And I will fight anybody who says he isn't a singer.
Yeah, well,
I'll punch him.
Well, listen to
that guy is one of the best rock and roll voices. The vocal on "Take Your Whiskey Home" should cement him as one of the greatest rock voices ever, period. That thing is just his character the tone. His range is amazing too. I mean, he can go low, and he can do those super high, siren screams. It's just amazing. No, he's the greatest frontman ever. He was the ringleader of the circus, but he's right up there with the top singers, in my opinion. And so what, he didn't sing the songs the same live. Who gives a shit? Neither Robert Plant. Nobody said about Robert Plant.
Right. True, and if you even go back, we all can go back to the isolated tracks all on the internet all you want these days, and to listen to him. You singing these damn songs live. There's not a lot of comping going on.
Yeah, he's in the room, and they're in a room playing. He's in a room doing the thing. Yeah, totally.
So you're hearing him sing. He's singing. Sounds great. I mean, he's David Lee Roth. I don't get that either. I mean, he part of his stick live was such a different vibe than a lot of stuff he did. But man, you're right. He's always been one of the greatest frontman of all time.
Yeah.
I saw him in '84, and it was everything that I expected. I saw him on Don Kirshner's rock concert. It's really what I first zoomed in on David Lee Roth. I just happened to flip the channel, and it was Jim Ladd, David Lee Roth, sitting there doing an interview,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Who is this dude with the long blonde hair? I had no idea,
Yep.
It was right after Beat It was released, or I think I'd heard of Eddie, but I'd never seen him. You didn't see it.
No, they weren't on TV.
We didn't have anything to see it. So we didn't have a reference. We didn't know what Eddie Van Halen even looked like.
No.
And I didn't know who David Lee Roth was, so I just saw this guy, and I was like, who's this dude with the long blonde hair? He's Dave, and I'm thinking, this guy's kind of different.
Yeah.
And then Unchained comes on, and I'm like, what is that sound, man?
Is that? Yeah.
Drop D, the drone as he's tuning, and you hear the drums coming, and I think that's the first time that I recognized something different about that tuning. I didn't know anything about guitar, but
sure, because you don't think that you can tune a guitar. Like, I don't know, just the whole notion of an E flat tuning. Yeah. Is like when you're young, you're like, no, it's tuned to A.
Right.
And it's like, oh, you can tune it to itself. Oh, wow. It's pretty mind blowing when you get that in your head,
Yeah, the drop D though, I think that, I know maybe Brian May used it before him, maybe. I don't know who. I mean, I'm sure that other people did it. Jimmy Page probably.
Yeah. And then Black Sabbath, that was all down tuned. So those songs were played in, regular chord positions, but every string was dropped, from I think Master Reality on or Volume 4 on, a step and a half down. So that wasn't all drop D stuff.
Yeah, and another thing is all the Van Halen albums are not in damn tune if you go try to learn the damn things.
No, they're all a little bit out.
Son of a bitch. I used
to, it's like a quarter step and a little more than a quarter step.
You killed me, man. I had a turntable that had one of those speed controls on it, And
lucky you.
But I couldn't quite get it. I was like, God, this is almost, but not quite. So yeah, it was hell with the vinyl, and now you got this the amazing slowdowner. You seen that?
Yeah.
Oh, it is amazing.
I rehearse is another good one, and you can semitones and then synths.
Oh yeah.
So you can really dial it in exactly right. And
that's crazy,
we
right?
really have it easy these days.
Thank the Lord, right?
remember the Ibanez Rock and Play? Did you have one of those?
I remember those, but I didn't have one.
It was like a Walkman size cassette player, and all it did was it cut the speed in half, right. Which also meant it dropped the pitch an octave too. Right, so you're learning these Van Halen licks they're super, super low, but that was the best you had.
It didn't really help much, did it?
No, it didn't help at all because you couldn't decipher what was going on. It was so low.
That is crazy, man. The stuff we used to have to go through to just to learn this. I was always trying to explain this to some of the younger people I play with. I was like, we had to put the needle down on the vinyl, and because it was so hard to locate it, you just played the entire damn song over.
Yeah. Trying to skip, you're going to go back too far, and it's like, well, okay, whatever. Yeah,
the whole song, and then you get to the solo, and you try to pick up a little bit every time, and then Guitar for the Practicing Musician didn't hit until early '80s, where they started.
I had all those in high school. I had those in Guitar World. I ate those up.
Right, and the first time you had tablature, you're like, I connected with tablature pretty easily. I kind of got it.
Me too. Me too.
I think everybody kind of connected with that, but connecting with it and playing Eddie's licks are totally different animals.
And now I've kind of, learned the right, or the Eddie way to play things. I'm like, wow, man, did those books ever have it wrong?
Right. Like, play interruption on the third string.
Yeah, exactly. But it was like, Wolf Marshall, didn't have a reference point either. He's just listening to it the best he could, and like we were, he didn't have any kind of a visual to go off of.
Well, Steve Vai did one transcription, and he did it on third string on the eruption solo. Yeah, it's amazing when you go, like now, when we can really see. Well, when we went to the shows, we try to get close and see what he was doing and where.
Right.
Because, I think all guitar players, that's the first thing we want to do is watch the guy play it and see what he is doing to do it. Because sometimes it does open doors that are easier, maybe sometimes that you hadn't thought of, like Ice Cream Man solo. It could be done a couple ways. You can play that all linear, or you can play it with a skip to the other string. And I guess it just depends on you and how your fingers want to go, which is going to be your choice, to try to nail those.
Even with chords, seeing somebody play a chord progression one way, it's like, oh, he's playing the A up there. That can change for solos and a lot of his rhythm stuff too. The way where he played it, what voicing he chose.
It's funny if you think about like something like Dancing the Night Away, where he plays that first lick, and then he goes down to the E, where he plays it with the two notes.
Yes.
In that weird spot. And I'd watch people play that, and I'd go, like, that's such a weird place to play that, but that's the way he does it.
Yeah. Yep. Beautiful Girls was a trick. That pull off is pretty tricky to do. But I thought he was doing something else. And then I saw him actually. It's like, oh, no, he's doing it the hard way. Pulling it off with his pinky.
Right. Yeah, like some of those things, you like there's I saw a video that I shared. I think you saw it on Instagram of him playing Light Up the Sky and how he was pedaling with his, I think he was pedaling with his thumb on the G. And then, playing that open G, playing an open G behind it, and then he'd go up to A and he'd play the fretted A chord in second position. When he would do that lick, he would drop back to it.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah.
He would fret that lower A.
Okay.
And I was like, you can do it right there in that position, but that's just the way he did it.
Yeah. I know I would, when I was doing it, or when I do a thumb with the G, and then the A, I go down, but then I hit the open A, which seems easier to play.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the rest of it, I'm doing it wrong.
Well, that's the way he's going to the A and the lower in the open A position. Yeah. It's just, some of the stuff he does, it's just so not intuitive to you.
Right. And when you play that guitar part by itself, like the verses and stuff, what the fuck? I mean, that is just, you can't hum any tune to it. It's just, it seems to be all over the place when you're playing it by itself. If like me or you sat down and played that riff to somebody that had never heard that song before, it'd be just like, what are you doing? Because it's like musically alone that, not knowing the song and hearing everything with it, it's just like, wow. When it gets out to like the be suspended, like when you hold that forever, and then you do all these ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba, all that stuff is so it's these starts and stops, and it's a really, really amazing thing that you think, because they never really wrote. They wrote instrumentally and then gave it to Dave. And it's just like, how'd they come up with that?
Like, thanks.
It's really incredible.
Dave's like going, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. And what a great opening line. It said, oh, backbreaker's coming out of the gate. And then with a crash and burn. It's like, I don't care what this song is about. That is one of the greatest opening lines of a song ever. It is so badass. It's already so mean. It's cool because it has the opening ascending thing that never happens again in the song.
Right.
Then it's just so mean. It's like still swings, but it's just like this proto heavy metal. That's the metal Van Halen sound.
Yeah.
And it's just all over the place, and it's just really, it's just that's a really, really wild one.
I think that's what we were talking about Roth. His amazing ability to put cool lyrics and melodies into these crazy compositions.
And great melodies. Like the great example is the "Thought You Never Missed Me Till I Got a Fat City Address."
What the hell? I mean,
wow, nice work,
right?
That is
who
awesome.
the hell could have came up with that under that? I mean, it's just so.
I mean,
whack.
what a great catchy like sing-songy thing over like the craziest. You know, the jump and the rhythm is so weird. It's in 4/4, but it doesn't feel like it's in 4.
Oh man,
what a great way to make that digestible. You know,
that is so. You know, like going through those songs, like I told you, would be going through. Like for that, I've played that song for years and knew that part for years. And of course, you try to sing that background vocal while you're playing guitar. I mean, bass player maybe, but.
Man,
even the bass is moving quite a bit, and it's all right there with it, and it's it's insanity to try to sing over that stuff, and then
watching that tour, watching Fair Warning footage, and how in tune those guys were singing.
Yeah,
like they were singing amazing.
Oh yeah,
together, Mike and Ed, which is great.
Yeah, the other part is I think you and I talked about this is the mistake at the top of Unchained.
Oh yeah, when he goes to the riff, the verse early. That's right.
Right, Roth.
Yeah.
And then they just go right into it.
Goes back into it. He goes back into
Right, it took me a while just to kind of go, oh, they made a mistake. Whose mistake was it, though? They're kind of like, oh. Yeah. It was pretty cool, though, that those guys could, they just had such a cool thing, man. But they've been playing together forever. I mean, we know that. Yeah. It's a big part.
And it just looked like it looked and sounded like the most fun that anybody could have doing anything.